And now that they're remainstreamed, you have the leader of the Kahanist party entering the Knesset. If Netanyahu comes back, he'll be a minister. But now that he's mainstreamed, he's A-OK by the Republican Party. Here is former Vice President Pence coming to Khalil, to Hebron, the site of the massacre, the worst mass murder in Israeli history. Coming to the site of the murder and getting a tour of the area and of these holy sites from none other than the Kahanists themselves. Meeting with Ben-Gvir, shaking his hand and praising him and wishing him well and wishing that he'll succeed. And the man standing beside them who brought Pence to this point, you may recognize him because he's also an American citizen. This is Simon Falek, one of those moneybags billionaires that funded both the Kahanists and Netanyahu all these years. Made his billions and still does from the Duty Free Americas, a corporation that he owns. When you go to the airport and you see that store, that's where your money's going, to fund the Kahana movement. But not only the Kahana movement, because he wanted to make sure that the Kahana movement would get support on this side of the Atlantic. And so every time something happens, some atrocity, some vile act that the Israeli government commits, we quickly have a phallic-sponsored politician to stand up and defend it, to speak out in Israel's defense, like Elliot Engel. Every time there's a destruction, an obliteration of entire neighborhoods in Gaza, we have a phallic-sponsored politician like Debbie Wasserman to stand in solidarity with Benjamin Netanyahu. Every time we have horrific destructions of communities in the Nakab, demolishing of Palestinian villages, we have a phallic-sponsored politician from the Democratic Party like Ted Deutsch to quickly come to Israel's side. And every time we have violent attacks on Palestinians in the West Bank by Jewish hooligans, we have Democratic Party politicians funded by the phallics like Robert Menendez to stand in solidarity and accuse anyone who says otherwise of being an anti-Semitic Jew hater. And so now we've got to the point where Israel can pass any racist law it wants, including the most recent nation-state law that openly and explicitly, no longer the mask drops and it's openly apartheid, will have a phallic-funded Democratic politician like Juan Vargas to say that for Israel to take in Lebanon, parts of Syria, Jordan, and some portions of Egypt, I've got absolutely no objection. This is where we are today. We've come to the point where the mask has fallen. There's no need anymore to hide the synergy between the Democrats and the Kahanists.